The Tau get a lot of flack for being the weakest faction in Warhammer 40k, especially the lack of grimdark element people keep screaming about. They look too clean, their ideology isn't oppressive enough, ethereals don't have enough of those damn pheromones, female Tau are too sexy. Well, maybe they don't say that last bit, but you get my point. What if I told you that Tau can be grimdark? In fact, Tau can be quite horrifying enemy to face, and that writers of Black Library missed the great potential of this faction. That the Tau can be a foe that is truly terrifying. Before we begin, remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, the whole shtick. You know what to do. If you can, support me on Patreon, Ko-fi, or Buy Me Coffee. I would appreciate it very much. With that out of the way, let's dive right in. I think people miss the enormous potential of a Tau as a scary or even terrifying enemy. And the reason why is obvious. Tau offer a different type of horror than other factions in 40k. They aren't the great hordes of orcs that care only for war and bloodshed, or armies of corrupted traitors to humanity, swarms of bioengineered monsters, or sadistic Drukhari. They don't have charismatic leaders in magnificent armors, covered in skulls and skin of their enemies, that monologue about faults of mankind or their own sick ambitions. No, the Tau offer the horror of facing a truly pragmatic and technologically advanced enemy. People forget that Tau are pragmatic by nature, ruthlessly pragmatic even. Psychological warfare is something they are well aware of. They care little about honor or accusations of cowardice. They are here to do their job. You are simply in their way. Cast your mind, if you can, to Operation Desert Storm. How Americans misdirected Iraqi's intelligence services, how they cut their communications, how American Air Force ripped apart airfields and military bases, how American tanks punched through defensive lines and with relative ease achieved one of the most impressive military victories in the world's history. And now understand this. When Imperial Guard faces Tau, the Guard aren't Americans, they are Iraqis. Watercast organizes great misdirections that fool Imperial intelligence, ensuring that Guard is out of position. You can be more than sure that High Command have a few rats who communicate what they know to the damn Xenos. Undetectable missiles destroy your artillery support, and Xenotanks you can't see turn yours into scrap metal. Your enemy is faster than you, has better comms, knows where you are, how you move, has invisible units behind your lines, and hunts your commanders, drones that are hard to spot and can show up any minute. Great propaganda videos of defeats, surrenders, desertion, or even defection of people that were your allies are displayed in form of massive holograms in the night sky. Music and proposition of surrender and better life reach your ears when you try to rest. Your commanders grow more and more paranoid, looking for as much as suggestion of doubt in your eyes, even after the damnable Xenos made sure to keep you awake the last 4 nights in the row by sending drones playing certain frequencies that make human instinct go wild. The Tau won't deploy monstrous machines nor summon demons from the warp, but they can break a mortal warrior in more ways than one. What about Astartes, the mighty angels of death? Surely those super soldiers can overcome the upstart Xenos. Sure, if they got close enough. Tau don't share a human sense of honor. They won't come close and face Astartes in melee combat, not to mention that crisis battlesuits, the most basic of them all, are more than enough of a challenge for a space marine. And unlike space marines, they are a commonplace. Deployment of 1000 crisis suits isn't anything out of ordinary for the Tau. Can a space marine destroy a crisis suit? Yes. Can they destroy 5 of them? Probably not. Not to mention, Tau adapt to new foes and develop special weapons to deal with them. Rail rifles that can kill an Astartes with a single shot are bad enough. But what if Tau will pragmatically focus on targeting apothecaries or other specialists? Space Marines, for the most part, aren't known for subtlety. They are medieval knights in power armor, which is cool and works just fine against enemies who, for some reason, put a lot of value on melee combat. But Tau? Tau do not care. Space Marines are impressive, sure, but how will they deal with a dozen of suicide drones supported by shield drones? We know that your armor is 1000 years old and was worn by the last champion of your chapter. However, you are currently inside a force field with 20 suicide drones equipped with fusion charges. We hope you don't mind that we will melt your armor, flesh and bone. Forget the stealth fields that make Tau invisible, long-range weaponry that allows them to kill you and your friends long before you see them, or even their impressive mobility that allows them to escape before you can respond. Drones. Drones have truly terrifying potential. We see it in the current conflict in Ukraine, what modified civilian drones can accomplish. Now imagine the same basic idea, but created by Tau and for military purpose. I know we all love Death Corps of Krieg, our beloved shovel guys, but I have a strange feeling that their idea of dying for the Emperor didn't include mass-produced drones dropping grenades to their trenches or showering them with liquid flame. With Mechanicus, you can explore the horror of them facing Tau artificial intelligence, the reflection of Men of Iron from Cybernetic Revolt. A distant image, for sure, but still. Cybernetic Revolt is the source of great fear and terror for the machine cult. This can be explored. The vision that this Xenos AI will follow in the footsteps of human AI, or worse, that it won't. That Tau will succeed where humanity has failed and create long-lasting relation with their AI. Imperial Knights and Titans? I already spoke about missile, artillery and air force. Yes, void shields are impressive, but just imagine, if you will, Manta. But rather than tanks and infantry, all that space is full of specialized missiles. The horror of inglorious death, the god machines felled by mass-produced missiles fired by a dozen to overwhelm their shields and cut them enough times before they die. Or maybe we could use drones once again. Titan marches towards a battlefield, when suddenly dozens of sizable drones pop out of the ground, fly to it, attach themselves to the weak points, and then blow up. Or maybe Tau could get something similar to Buzz Droid from Star Wars, a drone designed to disassemble enemy vehicles, crawling through vents and maintenance corridors. Death by 1,000 cuts. The God Machine felled by a swarm of flies. The horror of unfair, inglorious, and cruel death. There is a great potential for horror with drones. Drones are pragmatic, practical, impersonal. We can see our beloved heroes bleed on the ground before a drone shows up and finishes them off with a single shot. The drone wasn't even controlled directly, it was just following basic programming, felt no malice while accomplishing its task. How terrifying is that? Warhammer 40k prides itself on the monsters that roar their hatred, that use poisons that melt flesh, the psychic powers that corrupt the very soul, and so on. We all love dramatic monologues of those abominable monsters as they take great joy from every moment of despair on their enemy's face. But what about a horror on the other side? The killer doesn't even care about its victim. What if destruction of temple to the God Emperor is reduced to an image on display of Tau operator directing missiles on the points of interest? What if the only response to our protagonist's dismay and death isn't a grand monologue, but
another 2 targets down, moving to Sector 8. Cowtown, can you bring me some Shara fruit from the fridge? Thanks.
Pragmatic, practical, and impersonal way of waging war can be terrifying if you know how to present it. And besides, if you want monsters, monologues, and bizarre weapons, Tau Empire can provide you with all you could ever dream of in your darkest nightmares. Tau Empire is, after all, a commonwealth of many alien species, and many of them can be scary to fight. Games Workshop just needs to add more species. Kroot are scary enough because they want to eat you, and you don't need to be dead while they are doing so. Or worse, you can witness your friends and loved ones getting eaten alive, and you can't do anything to save them. This bit are underutilized, but I think that screeching xeno insect with beam weapons and buzzing wings can be quite scary. Especially when you remember that the damn things have actual stings and claws that are as hard as diamonds. Those things can most likely dig through Astartes armor, so flak plate most guardsmen have won't help. Imagine guardsmen suddenly attacked by Vespid, only to be grabbed and carried into the air and getting ripped into pieces by vicious, screeching monsters. Nagi, the psychic worms, they can sneak right up to Imperial lines and start planting ideas into minds of guardsmen. Subtle thing. Suddenly, commissars die in accidents more often. Some soldiers charge the enemy before others give them covering fire. Some can't stop arguing with other squads. And if Games Workshop put some actual work into adding more alien species, their would be many more possibilities. Sentient amoeba colonies that sneak into the barracks in the middle of the night, pass through every crook and cranny, and then slither inside bodies of their victims through nose or mouth, only to silently clog their airways and kill them silently in their sleep. How about some insectoid ant or termite-like species digging under the Imperial lines and bursting out in great swarm to overwhelm the unexpected foe, a tide of blades and guns, aliens who, unlike Tau, do not fear melee combat, nor value their own existence. What about small, cute bird xenos? As little sapient parrots. Cute little things. Now give them a laser pointer, which is in fact marker light to direct artillery strikes. Suddenly, people facing Tau develop a very rational fear of birds. Possibilities are endless, as are potential aliens who could join the Tau Empire. But here is the last, most terrifying thing to mention. Because all the things I mentioned above, the long-range guns, the technology that allows them to turn invisible, propaganda, psychological warfare, drones, different xenos, all of them would be deployed at the same time. Maybe you could deal with one of those problems, but could you deal with all of them at once? How long before you go mad? How long until you develop paranoia so great you'd open fire at your own shadow? How long until great Astartes stay in the trenches and cover the proud colors of their chapters to stay hidden? How long until each knight and titan doesn't dare to make a step without significant escort to keep it safe? How long before you lose your faith? Now, I think that's about it regarding the video proper, but there is one more thing. I would like to extend my thanks once again to Hayden Lumpkin for creation of this magnificent art piece for my Damocles Gulf Crusade rewrite series. An Imperial Knight of House Terran facing a Domati Battle Psyker. A classic theme of knight fighting a dragon with a proper 40k spin. This is, I think, my favorite art piece he created as of now. I also must thank him for being the first to join my Patreon, and of course I encourage you to do the same. You could also like, comment, subscribe and ring-ding that bell. But I think that's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed. Now, my dear viewers and listeners, remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, try to enjoy yourself while you can. I wish you most heretical day. Ta-ta!